The Mississippi State Bulldogs and Florida Gators set to do battle at Davis-Wade Stadium, and safe to say both sides are desperate for a win in this one. Who can get off the mat? Who can rebound? We're going to find out on Saturday in Starkville. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole Thompson. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game here on SEC Unfiltered, your number one source for SEC content. You can find us across all the social media platforms. YouTube, of course. Make sure you're here, you like and subscribe. You can also find us via podcast and our website, secunfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag. Use that promo code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SECU to get your special welcome offer today. Both Mississippi State and Florida look to rebound after woeful performances in Week 3. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Bulldogs and Gators, and helping me do so, my good friend Cole Thompson. He joins me once again. Cole, what's going on, my friend? Excited to talk about what I have labeled as the SEC's biggest pillow fight in the 2024 season. What's up, my man?
See, here's the thing. I have to do the post-game show for this afterwards on Saturday, and I'm probably going to be crap out drunk at this point because it is going to be the drunkest game of all time. Why are we having this discussion at this point? We know the writing is on the wall with Billy Napier. You can go ahead and just delay the inevitable if you get a win. You feel like that Florida is a better team, but also go back and look at how they played in a half against Texas A&M. The stat line will tell you the full story on how close this game was. Yeah, you get a few extra points at the very end of the day, but if you're also Mississippi State, you lose to Toledo. What are we doing here? Like, this is not going to be one of those matchups that we are talking about for all the right reasons. Potentially, we're going to be breaking this game down come Saturday afternoon for all the wrong ones.
Probably not going to be the prettiest SEC game of the season, but either way, you're a sicko. I'm a sicko. You all out there are SEC football sickos. That's why you're here. We love it. We love it. To your point, I think expect madness in this one when these two teams square off. It's a noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. local time kickoff on ESPN at Davis-Wade Stadium in Starkville. The line in this one, Cole, Florida is a 5.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 57.5, but that number's actually come down. I believe the Gators opened up right at a touchdown favorite, and so there's actually money, believe it or not. There's somebody out there putting their money on Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, believe it or not. The series history, it might be you for some reverse psychology. Florida leads the all-time series 34-19-2. The last meeting was in 2018. Florida won this game 13-6. What's interesting too, Cole, about this series, if you go back and look, especially like the 90s and the early 2000s, just kind of inexplicably, Florida has really struggled in Starkville. Like, this has been a bit of a house of horrors for them, and that's, you don't expect to say that. You wouldn't think the Florida Gators, especially some of their best teams, would struggle in Davis-Wade. No disrespect to Mississippi State, but it's just kind of a random place to call a house of horrors for them, but it has been. It's been really difficult. The games have been really close. I mean, who can forget Ron Zook and the boys going down there and losing to Sylvester Croom and that crew way back in those Jefferson Pilot days, but certainly this one's setting up to be a memorable chapter in this series. And that's where I want to start, Cole, as we break down this game. I mean, my biggest question at this point, we know what's going down in Gainesville. It's such a weird dynamic right now where many fan bases, I think, Cole, have been through this when you want to transition and you want to change. If you're a Gator fan out there, and I know you're listening, you're tuned in, you're pulling for your orange and blue to win. But, Cole, you know as well as I do, we spend a lot of time talking to different fans and whatnot and listening to fans. Florida fans are pulling for Florida, but they're also pulling for whatever gets Billy Napier out the door the quickest. And a loss to Mississippi State would certainly accomplish that. So you've got that situation in Gainesville. Then you go to Mississippi State and Starkville. It's year one of Jeff Lebby, right? Year one. You get a pass. Does that include a 24-point loss to MAC team Toledo on the home field? I don't know that it does. I don't know. So these are just two extremely interesting situations, two very difficult to comprehend situations. Florida's coming off of getting blasted by A&M on their home field. Mississippi State, we mentioned the Toledo game. I just want to know, Cole, who is able to get their team off the mat and who's more fired up to play in this football game? Because I think that'll go a long way in this one.
I wonder who Dan Mullen is pulling for in this game. I just thought about that for a second.
You know, he drops his picks weekly. I wonder, he's got to make a pick in this game.
He has
to. He has to.
He's picking Mississippi State. He has to.
Yeah.
He left on decent terms there. He did not leave on good terms with Scott Strickland. Here's the bottom line. With Florida, you have to realize that they don't have a school president right now. So they can't make the major firings that everyone wants. You know, because of Ben Sasse stepped down to take care of his wife who's dealing with epilepsy. That's a big deal. But also, when you think about it, you're delaying the inevitable for maybe 2 more weeks. You got to win this week. You now move 2-2. Maybe you find a way to get a win over UCF, who found a way to come back against a very ragtag TCU roster on the road, I might add in. And there are some people out there that are saying, hey, Gus Malzahn might look good in orange and blue. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that one first. But still, you're delaying the inevitable. We all know that Billy Napier, the writing is on the wall. There was no life in that team last week. And I think that was the big separation. There's one thing to lose the fan base. There's one thing to lose the entire swamp when you hear, I won't back down. And it is basically a monotone whisper. It's another thing to lose the locker room. Players are supposed to play for their coaches. Look at the way that Shane Beamer was able to thank the crowd at Willie B last week when they were able to cause a fumble on Garrett Nussmeier and the defense corralled and made a big-time play. Those players in Gamecock Nation play for Beamer, and the fans cheer on Beamer. They may hate him at times, but they do have a respect for him, and there's a mutual love. Well, you don't have that anymore with Billy Napier. You saw a don't drink and drive ad, and everyone just started chugging down their Bud Lights because they realized this is the reality that we live with. He was booed on the Megatron, and then he was booed off the field twice because the game was never in jeopardy. That's what it is. And you may feel like there's a lot of positivity surrounding the program with the personnel, the staff, the pieces, the recruiting base, all of that aside, but it all starts at the head. However, on the flip side, you lost to Toledo. You lost to Toledo. I'm sorry. I have to keep this. And I know this for a fact. I've studied everything about the MAC. Toledo is in its own entity when it comes to MAC programs. The resources that they have up there, the Rockets are in a great win situation. Jason Candle, part of the reason he's been able to be picky on getting a job if he wants to leave the place is because of how many resources are there. You will see some actual P4 schools not have what Toledo has. But that doesn't contradict that when it's the SEC and you're playing in the SEC backyard and the cowbells are supposed to go crazy, you blow it. You have a bad game. So either way, it's a get-right game, I think, for Mississippi State. It's a must-win game for Billy Napier because if you go play UCF, then you get the bye, and then you can play Tennessee. Do you make it to Tennessee? With a loss in this game against another first-year coach, who, by the way, has lost back-to-back games against Arizona State, who last year won 3 games, and Toledo, that is a G5 school in the SEC, I don't think that there is a comeback for that. If you have to have the Board of Regents step up, which apparently they did not do on Sunday when that meeting that never was actually occurred, it becomes a thing. But still, if you lose in Starkville, it's one thing. I get it. There's kryptonite for everyone. Mark Stoops' kryptonite is Shane Beamer. Like, we can all agree that in years past, Kentucky has had a better roster than South Carolina at times, but it didn't matter because if you threw on the spectacles and look at that, you were partying inside the locker room and cola. Like, that's what it was. But for me, losing back-to-back games to first-year head coaches that are trying to establish a culture ultimately is the sign that you have no culture. And it's very clear that the culture is dead on arrival in Gainesville, but come on. A loss after losing by double digits to a G5 program, I don't even think that you see him get on the bus. Like, remember when Lane Kiffin was fired on the tarmac? I think he's fired at the bus doorstep if you are Florida.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, Cole. Who is it more difficult? Which of these two respective head coaches is it more difficult for to rally their troops? Because, and I could argue it's Napier just from the standpoint of, like, it feels like his fate is sealed. Like, I don't think he's a dead man walking. Like, Jeff Lebby's in year 1. I think he can look at his team and say, hey, we're just getting started. Maybe you can use this as, you know, we're battling adversity. Let's show resiliency. We're in front of our home crowd. Like with Florida, that's why I'm again so curious about who gets up off the mat, because has Florida given up? Has Florida just said, hey, this guy ain't going to be here next year anyways? I'm already thinking about my future, where I'm going to transfer to, like, whatever. I'm really curious. I will say this, though, Cole. You mentioned the swamp. I think getting away from the swamp could help Florida.
Yeah.
I think being, that chip on the shoulder of being on the road, like it's because it's getting to a place, if it hasn't already gotten there in Gainesville, and this isn't the fault of Florida fans, by the way. I don't want to make it sound that way, but it's just gotten a bit of a toxic place. Like it doesn't help you when your home crowd is booing your head coach. And I mean, we get why they're doing that, but maybe getting out of that, getting on the road, being able to kind of use that as some motivation and get excited about that, trying to disappoint somebody else's home crowd instead of your home crowd being disappointed in you, it seems, week after week. Like, maybe that can help this team. Something else that can help this football team, Cole, the quarterback position playing well. How does Florida use DJ Lawgway? I think we have to keep asking that question. I believe I saw Billy Napier in his press conference on Monday say that their plan is to start Graham Mertz, get DJ in early, and then just kind of go from there. So there is no plan, really. There's no hardcore set plan. From what you saw from DJ Lawgway against Texas A&M, how much do you think he should be playing? Because he definitely looked like a freshman against the Aggies. I mean, I think you could argue. I don't know. I think you kind of want to limit his reps, man. Like he is a freshman. He's a youngster. Graham Mertz, I think, is your guy. Like, unless things are really going sideways, I think you got to stick it out with Graham.
The way that I view this is there are two truths to every situation. The first is that DJ Lawgway is better than what we saw in that game against Texas A&M. The other truth is that Texas A&M has finally meshed together, and they're not playing as two rosters that are transfers and newcomers and old folks. It's all just one cohesive unit. That was the case of what I saw at Texas A&M. It wasn't just seeing a great defensive performance from one key player. It was everyone on the same page. Coverage was fantastic. The linebackers were lining up a position. Your front seven was bullying the Gators offensive line. So all that aside, there are two truths to it. The other thing is, I don't understand what Billy was thinking last week. I'm sorry. And this is where I kind of gave up. And this is where I said I was wrong to say that this was going to be turned around. You never allowed any one of the quarterbacks to get comfortable in the situation, because what you did was you switched them out every single drive. And you may say, well, we're going to just play the hot hand and we're going to just see how this works. And maybe if we don't know how to prepare, and they're thinking that after what we saw with the big time play to Elijah Badger down the field, they're going to have to play consistent reps with Graham Mertz slinging it across the middle of the field. Instead of getting those 60-yard gains, you're watching them gain those 13, 10, 9, 4. And then it's just consistent movement. But they never got comfortable. And the problem is that immediately after you saw the Elijah Badger touchdown, Marcel Reed, who was not expected to play in this game, and then at the last second said, hey, you want to go ahead and compete for a starting job in College Station? Yeah, sure. I think that I can handle it. Decided to throw a dart to Cyrus Allen. Why didn't you keep DJ out there then? You just saw the offense work. So Graham Mertz should be the starter in this game because he is the veteran. He is the person that I think gives you the most confidence. He has a relationship with several of these receivers, Shamir Dike, Eugene Wilson. If he's able to come back for this game, who knows if he plays again this year, if he's already entered his name in the transfer portal and is just waiting for it all to happen. Elijah Badger, whatever it is, you trust that Graham Mertz can stabilize your team. You throw DJ in for a few plays. I don't doubt that. And I think that that's a big thing that you have to look at, because if remember back in the day, again, you saw as Chris Leak started and Tim Tebow got comfortable, because if they wanted Tim Tebow to be able to take over, we don't know what the situation is going to happen with DJ moving forward, if he's even going to be in Gainesville next year, if Billy's shown the door. But regardless, you get him comfortable on certain reps. But the only way that you take Graham Mertz out of this game as the full-time starter is if he is throwing back-to-back picks, he's fumbling the bag, he gets injured, and then you turn to DJ. And by the way, whenever you do turn to DJ, DJ is the guy for the rest of the game. The game plan needs to be for Billy in this matchup, not this hoity-toity back and forth. Maybe we'll go with Graham this play. Maybe we'll go with DJ this play. It's a mystery. Now, the only mystery should be if you're making those type of mistakes, why are you not fired at halftime? You stick with one. You bring in DJ for a couple plays. You go back to Graham if he's working. If he's not working, you go with DJ. You ride it out. Ride out into the night, regardless of the outcome, regardless of your situation. Ride out with the guy that you made sure stuck around with Gainesville, stuck around with Florida, and give hope for the Florida fan base that maybe he's the long-term answer.
Hope. That is the thing that both Florida and Mississippi State fans are looking for, but certainly the Gators, like you mentioned, hope is the thing. Yeah, there's probably none in Starkville. You mentioned, Cole, the status of Trey Wilson. That's definitely going to be something to follow this week. I was told he was probably going to play in the game last week, and then obviously he was a late scratch. So we'll see if that's something that's lingering. We'll see if there's something more to it, like you mentioned. I would hope not. That would suck. But you never know. College football in 2024 is unpredictable. But certainly the status, you want to get Trey Wilson in this game. You know you got Badger. You know you got DK. But obviously exposing that Mississippi State defense down the field. That's something else I wrote in my notes, Cole, was just Russ Callaway. Can he expose Coleman Hutzler? I mean, you give up 41 to Toledo. I don't have confidence you can stop anybody. They got exposed to the air this past weekend. You know, the week prior, Bo Scatabo ran, or whatever his name, Scatabo ran for
Cam Scatabo. We gotta respect that man because he basically is white Peyton Hillis again.
I got carried away with my Bows. I apologize. Calling him Bo Scatabo. Cam Scatabo, who's a blast to watch, ran for 300 yards, almost 300 in that game.
Sound my bad. He had over 280 yards of offense.
Yeah, they haven't done a lot well. You have to think, and talking to Mississippi State folks, the thing they mentioned to me, Cole, was just the how slow the defense was against Toledo. And as bad as things have been at Florida, they still have athletes. They've still got athletes on the offensive side. So I wonder, can Russ Callaway, Billy Napier, the offensive staff, can they dial something up to get their offensive playmakers, their skill position guys, their athletes in position to make big plays? Because big plays should be there for them.
They should. What I also will say is that, surprisingly, what I came more so away with was the inconsistency of the secondary for Mississippi State. I mean, the run defense wasn't great by any means whatsoever, 2 touchdowns, but you did only hold them to 3.8 yards per attempt. So maybe that's something. Again, they are called the Rockets. They know how to blast off into space, and you kind of kept them on the launch pad for the most part. But the explosive plays down the field. I mean, Junior Vandross had a 24-yard catch. You had Larry Stevens with a 31-yard catch. Jacques Stewart, has a 27-yard catch. Back-to-back plays with Willie Shaw and Justin Stevens, 17-yard receptions. So you allowed 3 touchdowns through the air. You also allowed 13 yards per pass attempt. Basically, that was a first down every play. And so you have these athletes that we are talking about, and that's maybe the saving grace for Florida, is that you have the athletes. You have the guys that can easily run rampant against a Bulldog defense that for most of us at the start of the year, we realized was going to have to play a lot of prevent. Like, let's just get one stop and we have to win in these high scoring opportunities. What I also will say is that even though you did see Blake Shapen throw an interception in this game, he also still remained consistent. 319 passing yards. He also rushed for a couple of yards. He had a couple of big-time runs last week against Arizona. 2 weeks ago against Arizona State. He's been the one constant, I think, that you can hold your hat on to if you're Jeff Lebby about this unit, that there is a little bit of life in Starkville, that you have a quarterback that is not the fundamental problems. He's kind of the one thing that has you playing really inconsistent but still watchable football on Saturdays for your fan base, and it's a building block for your team. You know, the one thing I did say, and I know I am priority public enemy number 1 down in Stark Vegas right now. I understand my role. I've appreciated who I am. The one thing I did say in the offseason, though, Chris, and you remember this, was the number 1 pairing of quarterback and head coach combo of transfers this offseason that I loved was Blake Shapen and Jeff Lebby. I thought it was a perfect fit for these two. And that's, I think, going to be the fit moving forward, to where you can maybe make some plays, you can make some identities, you can have some moments where you maybe capitalize those explosive plays down the field. If Marcel Reed can do it, why can't a guy like Blake Shapen, who's been playing college football, and when he's at his peak, he's been pretty dang good.
And you mentioned, Cole, Blake Shapen. I think this is a game, again, you look at the Vegas over-under 57.5. They're expecting points in this one. You understand why. I mean, Florida defensively they haven't been great either, especially the secondary. The secondary has just been really disgusting to watch, in my opinion. But you got Blake Shapen, who's going to throw it around the yard. Kevin Coleman, who was really good against Toledo. Seydou Traore, I believe is how you say his name. The tight end, Kelly Akari, who's a guy that we were really high on all throughout the preseason and coming into the season. So I think that matchup, Cole, I mean, I think Mississippi State, those are some winnable matchups for them, some winnable battles. It's you know, I fully expect, to your point, Jeff Lebby and Blake Shapen have some success against that Florida secondary.
Chris, let me ask you out of curiosity, is this a game where one of these two come away with a win, or the other one just finds a way to lose? Because in my opinion right now, it just feels like there's no life for Florida. Florida has nothing to live for. They have nothing to play for. They realize that there's nothing left that's going to save Billy's job. But maybe Mississippi State finds a way to throw a pick six late and they end up walking away with the win. Or is it maybe this is the game where you rally and you are Florida and you say, Cole's an idiot. Chris Phillips, how dare he say negative things about our program? We believe in Billy. And then you end up going with DJ Lawgway and he throws a pick six and now you lose the game and he still is fired. Like, to me, that's what the one conundrum that I have in this matchup. I don't know if you're going to see a team win. I definitely think you're going to see a team lose.
It definitely, Cole, to your point, feels like a game where this game will probably be more so lost than it was won. On that note, let's get into our predictions, Cole. I'm going to start with this one because you mentioned that, and it kind of piggybacks perfectly in the way I think this game will go. Because I think there's matchups on both sides where you could easily look at that total and say, man, this game's going to go over. Like, we're going to get a lot of points in the back and forth, going to be a bit of a shootout. I fully expect this game, Cole, to be sloppy. I think there's going to be I think it's going to be like Bad News Bears style. I'm not saying we're going to get Arkansas, Mississippi State from last year where the final was 7-3. I'm not saying that, but that kind of vibe of a game where it's just ugly. You're going to you're going to watch this game and you're probably going to feel like you need to take a shower afterwards. You're going to feel a little dirty having watched this, but it's okay. We're all going to be in the same boat, but we're all going to feel a little gross, Cole, and that's okay. That's fine. That being said, I look at these two teams, Cole. Florida's got a lot of issues. It's a swirling whirlwind of toxicity. Mississippi State's got a lot of issues. It's a swirling whirlwind of negativity, and we both know what these two teams did last week. At the end of the day, with that being said, I just still think Florida's got more talent. I'm sorry. I cannot pick you to win this game the week after you lost to the Toledo Rockets of the MAC. I can't do it. I don't care that the game's at home. I know the cowbells will be going. I don't really know how excited the crowd's going to be. I have no idea. I think Florida, Cole, getting out of the swamp is a benefit to them. I still do think, honestly, Cole, I mentioned who can get off the mat. I think this team likes Billy Napier. I actually think his players like him. I think they believe in him. You heard the comments from Graham Merchant. Again, you could say, well, what else is he going to say, right? They've quit on him. But I think this team, I think they do like Billy. I think they'll rally around him. It'll be a sloppy, ugly, nasty game, Cole, but I do have Florida pulling it out. I like the offensive matchup against Mississippi State. I'm not a believer in Coleman Hutzler. I didn't think that was a great hire. Admittedly, I don't think any of us really did. And I don't see them having any answers for the athleticism that Florida has on the outside. Could also be a big day for Montreal Johnson running the football. But I think in the passing game specifically, I think Florida will hit some explosives in that regard. You mentioned what Toledo did. I think it'll be more of the same from Florida. I got Florida winning this game 27-17. But again, I think a game that maybe we come in with some expectations of, again, at least in Vegas, there's these expectations of a lot of points and scoring. I just don't think either one of these teams is operating in a capacity where there won't be a lot of blunders and a lot of mistakes. And I just think it's going to result in a really sloppy, nasty, ugly game that Florida finds a way to win.
I agree with you. Stand by for 1 second.
What in the world could be going on here?
This is what we call
the drunkest game of the week.
The drunkest game of the week, but also this is what we call Michelob Ultra. What I call this is piss water. It's really just run down, nonchalant, yeast, wheat. It's got a low flavor to it. Got a little pop. That's Florida, and it's Mississippi State. At the same time right now, it's both just piss water. You know that there's a lot of yeast. There's a lot of flavor that's not really there. Carbonation, a little bit of that pop. But at the end of the day, it's not going to it's not going to quench your thirst. It's not going to make you happy. There's better things out there. You know what there are. And much like this, I'm probably going to have 13, 17, 24 during this game because it is going to be the drunkest game of the year. Because, Chris, I vehemently disagree with you. I don't think this is going to be a low down, easy ragtag moment for these two. I think it's going to be spitballing, throwing piss missiles left and right, wheeling and dealing. Blake Shapen's going to finish with 510 passing yards. DJ Lawgway is going to finish with 250 passing yards. Graham Mertz is going to finish with 500 passing yards. It's going to be the longest game of a back and forth. Who wants it last? Just punches after punches. And ultimately, I can't pick you if you lose to the MAC. I wanted to. I have been sitting here all day trying to find a reason why Florida is going to lose this game. I have been sitting here coming up with ideas of why Florida is going to find a way to fumble the bag and Billy is not even going to be brought back to Gainesville. But you lose to a MAC team and you don't lose on a close call. It never was in doubt that the Rockets did not blast off in Starkville and the cowbells went quiet. So I can't do that. I do believe that this is going to be a close call in the fourth quarter, but ultimately, one team also has an established run game in Montreal Johnson. So give me to go ahead and do what Toledo did last week, blast off at Stark Vegas. I'm going to go big. 51-45 final score, Florida. This is going to be the drunkest game I have seen all year. And I still have to do work for you guys later on in the afternoon. So pray for me because of this piss water going to be going down my gullet. There's going to be multiple sloppy plays. There's going to be multiple explosive moments. Ultimately, you're going to see what a Jeff Lebby offense looks like. And you're also going to see why you need to trust the run game because Florida wins because of it.
Glorified piss water. I'm actually pulling for your scenario more than mine because that'd be a lot more entertaining. But
the post-game show will be awesome.
That's
for me, it's constant.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I think either of the scenarios are possible. Who knows what's going to happen? To your point, though, a lot of people I think had this as like their upset pick in the preseason, right? Like when people were kind of picking games, it's like, man, watch out, Florida. That's a trap game. I don't know if they'd have thought that if you knew that Mississippi State was going to lose to Toledo. So Mississippi State played themselves because I think there were a lot of people, to your point, Cole, a couple weeks ago that were ready to pick Hail State to essentially put the final nail in the coffin of Billy Napier's tenure. And it's just hard to do so when
listen, I know I'm public enemy number one. I know that you all love Brandon Walker. He and I can probably go box this thing out. I was going to pick you. I was, and then you decided to go ahead and lay down and show me who you really were. Congratulations. Now I have to go ride with Billy Napier for another week.
So, guys, what do you think? You agree with us? Do you disagree? How do things play out when Florida and Mississippi State do battle at Davis-Wade Stadium? Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get those. Of course, all social media platforms, you can find us there. And, of course, at our website at secunfiltered.com. For Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.